come against him like a whirlwind. The moment will be electric, not only because John Paul helped inflame the fervour for freedom in his Polish homeland that swept like brushfire across Eastern Europe. Beyond that, the meeting of the two men symbolises the end of the 20th century's most dramatic spiritual war, a conflict in which the seemingly irresistible force of communism battled against the immovable object of Christianity. Time magazine, December 4th, 1989. With chariots and horsemen and military strength. In 1981, the communist bloc got another shock. A new American president, Ronald Reagan, began fulfilling his promise to challenge the Soviets, not placate them. Over the next few years, he accelerated the military build-up and announced the Strategic Defense Initiative, SDI, a space-based system for protecting against missile attack. He backed anti-communist rebels in Nicaragua, Angola, Cambodia and Afghanistan. And with American troops, he liberated the island of Grenada from communist thugs. The Soviets' confidence was shaken. The Western Europeans also pressured the Soviets. NATO forged ahead with military and modernization. German voters spurned Soviet peace overtures and elected a government that voted to deploy new intermediate-range missiles. Military pressure from America and its Western allies had caused the Soviets to flinch. Reader's Digest, March 1990. With many ships and economic strength. Gorbachev has also grasped the fact that political and economic survival depends upon the goodwill of the Soviet people, among whom Christians have always outnumbered communists. Gorbachev, moreover, needs the cooperation of the West, observes Father Mark, a reform-minded Orthodox priest in Moscow, who considers Gorbachev's program within the USSR a result of foreign policy necessity. Economic stress places Gorbachev between a rock and a hard place. In the 1980s, communist economies, always inefficient, went belly up. Before they had lacked consumer and luxury goods, now perennial shortages of staples worsened as well. When Soviet miners went on strike in 1989, the demands included soap, toilet paper and sugar. Reader's Digest, March 1990. And then what happens? We find that the Iron Curtain, the Berlin Wall, becomes demolished. All of a sudden, the stronghold of communism collapsed like brush fire. And when did this take place? In 1989. And who gets the credit? The triumph of John Paul II. The tide of freedom washing over Eastern Europe answers his most fervent prayer. Overflow, rush over, wash away and pass over. This is exactly what took place in the nation of the USSR. One by one, the communist countries was taken over. The rush to freedom in Eastern Europe is a sweet victory for John Paul II. Life magazine, December 1989. Who gets the credit? Pope John Paul II. Thus was born Solidarity, backed by the Church and led by such friends of the Pope as Lech Walesa and Tadeusz Mazowiecki, who subsequently became the Soviet bloc's first Christian prime ministers. Time magazine, 1989. The triumph of John Paul II, the tide of freedom washing over Eastern Europe, answers his most fervent prayer. Life magazine, 1989. For Gorbachev, the firmament in the Baltics is shaking not just a small corner of the empire built by Lenin and Stalin, but the foundations of the empire itself. The nationalities question is a potent distillation of many other signs, from a crumbling economy to violent ethnic clashes, that the breathtaking disintegration of the Soviet Empire in Eastern Europe may not stop at the Soviet border. As the economy deteriorates and shortages grow, public disillusionment with communism and with Gorbachev himself is rising, and hostile republics, nationalities and interest groups are competing more fiercely for political power and for shares in the shrinking economy. Corruption and crime are rampant. Miners and railway workers threaten to cut off fuel supplies during the bitter winter. Azerbaijanis cut the rail line to an Armenian enclave in their midst. Farmers hoard food, leaving city shelves bare. And that's in US News and World Report, January 15, 1990. Here we see Time magazine, a holy alliance. Only President Ronald Reagan and Pope John Paul II were present in the Vatican Library on Monday, June 7, 1982. Declares Richard Allen, Reagan's first national security advisor. This was one of the great secret alliances of all time. Here we see the Pope and Ronald Reagan together, the Holy Alliance. And remember in verses 30 and 31 that arms shall stand on his part. Now we see a fulfillment of the repetition of this prophecy, that America became the arms for the papacy to bring it back into power. And here they're having a secret meeting. Reagan and the Pope agreed to undertake a clandestine campaign to hasten the dissolution of the communist empire. Remember, pagan Rome had to take out how many territories? 3. Papal Rome had to take out how many territories? 3. Therefore, the revived Papal Rome, modern Babylon, also has to take out 3 territories. Verses 40 and 41 tells us who the territories are. King of the South, the glorious land, and Egypt. It has to be territories. When you follow the prophetic pattern, 3 territories removed, 3 territories removed, therefore 3 more territories has to be removed. And who brings the papacy back into power? Arms. And who brings modern Babylon into power? America. We also find this in Revelation chapter 13. In Revelation chapter 13, we have the second beast power with 2 horns, lamb-like horns. This is America, the USA. And what does Revelation 13 tells us that America does? It sets up an image to the beast, and it causes the whole world to worship the beast power. Therefore, should we not find reference to America in the books of Daniel? If it's in Revelation, should we not find it in the book of Daniel? And we find it here in chapter 11. Arms stand on the part of the papacy. And that's exactly in fulfillment what takes place in Revelation chapter 13. Book of Daniel and Revelation stacked together, and there's a line of prophecy that flows. Time magazine, February 24th, 1992, chose the title Holy Alliance. To discuss this coming together of these 2 powers, the articles in Time describing this alliance discussed the cooperation between the United States and the Vatican as they sought to bring down communism. Concerning the deadly wound that was healed, in a caption connected with 2 photographs showing the assassination attempts of both the Pope and of Ronald Reagan, the following statement was made. A common brush with death. At their first meeting, Reagan and John Paul II discussed something else they had in common. Both had survived assassination attempts that occurred only 6 weeks apart in 1981, and both believed God had saved them for a special mission, and both referred to this miraculous fact that they had survived. And here we see Reagan being shot and the Pope being shot. It's like shooting God. The magazine elaborates on the secret nature of this alliance. As it was done in darkness, so to speak, it mentions the closeness of the Vatican and the leadership of the United States, pointing out that many advisors to President Reagan were Catholic. It draws the connection between the Vatican and the labor unions and identifies solidarity as one of the main players in this intrigue. It also labels the use of our military, the CIA, for unions and finances as key tools in this collaboration. Sinister indeed was this unholy alliance. And when we go back to chapter 11 verse 30, what does it say? It says, for the ships of Chittim shall come against him, therefore he shall be grieved and return and have indignation against the holy covenant. And shall he do, he shall even return and have intelligence with them that forsake the holy covenant. You see, America over time is forsaking its Protestant